Who's going for coffee? Who's going for coffee? So no one's going for coffee. Who's going for coffee?
All right, everybody, welcome back to Who's Going for Coffee. Got an interesting guest on today. He's a good friend of Local One, a good friend of NEIEP. It's Britt Thomas. How you doing, Britt?
Doing well. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you, man. So we're going to get into your relationship with NEIEP and with the locals and what you do around the country. But before we start, just tell us a little bit about yourself, like, you know where you live in, maybe a little snippet of your family.
Yeah. So been in Memphis, Tennessee for since 1995. So I guess that's home. My dad went to Texas A&M in the 70s, so that got in my blood and stuck there. So, but been there since.
So what are they? What are they? The Aggies? Or
Yeah, the
something like
Aggies, Texas A&M Aggies. Yeah, agricultural and mechanical.
There you go.
So yeah, it's good. And we're doing well this year. So you don't always get to wear the shirt, but we're 5-0 right now. So
Listen, when you root for the teams that I root for, you wear them all the time. So
No.
I'll have my Jet shirt on Sunday, and
Yep. Are you a Yankees fan?
Oh God, no.
No, Mets.
I'm well known as the biggest Yankee hater of all time.
Okay. All right.
It's a problem. There's got to be a pill out there for it, But no, I'm a Met fan, and it's whatever. So you work for a company called Performance Associates, right?
Right.
So why don't you explain to our listeners what exactly does Performance Associates do?
Really just anything in the area of aptitude testing, and that can be, testing for frontline employees all the way up to executives. And also a big part of that is what we do for NEIEP, which is the certification test. After the apprentices go through their program for 4 years, they take a certification exam. And so I do a lot of that for companies as well. But anything just in the testing and assessment phase space is what we do.
All right. How long have you been doing that for NEIP?
For NEIEP, I was involved in the 1999 mechanics exam rewrite and the 2014 rewrite. So, 1999, 26 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 99, for our members that remember the great John Green, that was the business manager back then. So, you remember John, right?
Well, I don't remember him. I had been out of school for 3 years, deer in the headlights. My boss at the time was in charge of that. We did it in Chicago. But I'm sure my boss Mark Jones would have.
Yeah. So those must have been good times. But just to get into what you do, and what I want to try and do is dispel some of the myths that are out there, some of the what people think, how these exams get written, how the mechanics exam gets written. So just explain a little bit the process of writing these exams. We try and tell our members it's us that do it, right? We collect CMEs, right? Subject matter experts from around the country. But what's the process like when you're going to go into and you're going to develop an exam?
Yeah. So, there's a lot of rigorous pre-activity, and you can tell me how much or little you want to know about that. But, you got to make sure that the exam is based on what the guys are doing in the field. That is the bottom line. And so there are certain steps that you have to go through to make sure that we do a job analysis, which is identify all the tasks that they do. We assign importance levels to that, or the people in the field do. So you basically create a blueprint, much like you would create a blueprint for a building or anything like that, in a very systematic way. And once the blueprint for the test is ready, which is going to involve questions or information from all 8 semesters, as it should, once you get that blueprint ready, then you bring in people who are doing the job. I know testing, but I don't know elevators enough to write test questions about elevators. So the questions are written by people doing the work. Elevator mechanics from across the United States, which makes sure we represent what's done and the terminology and things like that. And then we bring them together. You get them some training on how to write items, and then they write the questions.
Right, but writing the questions, there's a right and a wrong way to writing questions.
Right.
You just don't write, right?
Yeah.
You've probably seen some pretty smart elevator guys sitting there and they write a question, you're like, hey, bro, we can't write a question like that. So there is a method to the madness.
Yeah, when we were all in elementary and high school, you read these books and then you take these tests and it's like all the above, A and C, A and B, but not D. Those are not written well. So everyone who writes items gets some training. Okay, we want to take some relevant content. Well, the first thing we do is we have them go. If you're in Unit 515, we say, Richie, identify the 5 most important things from Unit 515. You write those down, and then you pull out and you say, okay, well, this is something I want to write on. You write a scenario. You don't write something that's academic and irrelevant. You pull out, hey, you're at an elevator. You're at a a bank of 5 elevators in a hotel or whatever, and and there's something wrong, and you give them enough information to kind of tell them what's wrong, and then you just say, okay, what would you do, or what's the problem? So it's very practical, scenario based. That's our way of writing items so that it makes sense, so that it's as close to the job as it can be.
Right. So we've seen a change in the style of questions over the years.
Right.
I think in whatever the test that was developed prior to 2015, there was a big philosophical change in how a lot of those questions were written, right? And more specifically the circuit tracing questions. What we found was the more scenario. There were a lot more scenario-based questions than just, the regurgitation
Traces.
of knowledge,
Yeah.
definitions of terms. It seemed like there was more scenario-based questions, right? Am I right?
Right. Yeah. You can do Ohm's law. V equals IR and all that stuff. And if you get to what's the third missing component, and that's just more memorization. What you'd rather do is you'd rather present a circuit to them and have them be able to trace and know what goes on and know what the voltage is going to do and what the resistance is going to do. So yeah, that's what they do in the field. Is the whole idea is to try to replicate as much as possible what they do in the field on the test questions.
Right. Yeah, I think that was the biggest when 2015 came out, and the first 20 guys here failed the test.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh my God, Rome's burning. And
Yeah.
everybody's freaking out. And the word coming from the guys that we would talk to was it was all circuit tracing. 159 circuit tracing questions and 1 question on a dumbwaiter, and that's
Yeah.
it. Well, we knew that wasn't the case,
Right.
but we didn't know really what was going on, right? And that's when that very next meeting that we sat there for the 2 days, I went up and, I got put on that committee, and it was very interesting because we went over how the nation was answering the questions of 400 cracks at the test,
Right.
And we're trying to identify the bad questions, if there are any.
Yeah.
And what I came away with from that was there weren't any bad questions, and there was an even amount of questions from every semester. And I think for the first time, that was really the case. Because I know in prior exams, there was a heavy dose of electrical or, and very few of a certain semester, where I think in 15, it was really an even Steven through all the semesters.
Yeah, and that's by design. That's the blueprint. Right. It's like, okay, well, we have 8 semesters. We got to make sure we write a representative number from each one of the semesters. Otherwise, NEIEP wouldn't spend the time on a particular semester. It's there. It's important. Let's write questions from it.
So that was by design.
Yes.
Right. So, and I think that helps guys, right? Because no one semester is going to kill you. If you really struggle in a certain area,
Yeah.
It wasn't the death sentence that maybe isn't passed. If, it was a heavy dose of, 300 and 400 and you didn't get that, it was over for you. Where now, no one semester is going to kill you.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Yeah. So I was happy when I finally got to see it. I'm like, wait a second, what's going on
Right.
here? But explain a little bit too the process of some people think, hey, just go develop another test, come out next month with a new test. What's the procedure? If all of a sudden we turn around and said, well, we need a new test. What's the process? What's the timeline for creating a new test?
That's about a 12-month process, and we get to do it in 12 months because we have a lot of the groundwork already laid. I mean, if you're doing it from scratch, you'd probably do it about 24 months. But even in the 12-month process, you have to say, okay, let's get all the curriculum. I mean, we know that that's there, and let's assume that's all up to date. But you've got to identify people from throughout the United States who are, have been out, who are mechanics, who've been out in the field long enough to know what's going on. They're seasoned, they're well respected by their peers. So you have to assemble them all together. Well, you got to schedule them somewhere, in some place. That takes time, and then you get them all together, and then it really takes about I think we had 40 people in Chicago in 2014 when we wrote the draft items, and we were there all week long, and we drafted 250 to 300 items, knowing that we would really only be able to use 160 of them. So you do that, and you're 2 months in right there. Once you get everybody together and get them written, you want me to keep going
Yeah.
So you're 2 months in right there, and you got 250 really rough draft items, and you're wanting to narrow down to 60. So that's where then Performance Associates, we take them back and we start editing down, and then we get a smaller group of people together. And that's you're in month 4 or 5 at that point, and then you edit and edit and edit, and then after about 9 months, you get a final group of about 200 items together. Then you got to get your subject matter experts back together in a place for about a week and narrow down to the final 160 items that are on the exam. You do that, and then you got to further polish them, and then you got to get them published by Prometrics right now. So by the time you do that, it's 12 months easy.
Yeah. It's process.
It's a rigorous process of writing, editing, narrowing down, and then the important thing is all the items are evaluated by seasoned mechanics all throughout the process, down to the final selection of items. It's not Performance Associates; it's Performance Associates plus seasoned mechanics in the field.
So a big part of your role as Performance Associates is really the validation of that exam, right? Yes. So you got the state wants a third party evaluating that exam, that we're just not creating this, wild and crazy exam, that it is validated by a professional company.
Yeah, there are state regulations, there are federal regulations on how these tests need to be developed, and that's part of my training. And so part of what I have to do is make sure that the test all along follows those procedures, so that when it is finished, that we can tell NEIEP, yes, it's validated and it meets professional standards.
I got to imagine that when you're in those writing sessions and you get into the end, there's got to be some guys that really want their question and they're fighting for their question.
Mm-hmm. Right? That's true.
I'll bet there's times where, I want that. That's my question.
You've invested in that and you want it, yeah. But at the end of the day, I think everyone was like, well, that's just either it's going to work or it's not going to work. And it's a nice collective effort.
It is. I've been in some of these rewrites. I remember, I think for the 2015 test, I put myself on the committee for 300, and it was in Austin, Texas. I tell this story all the time. And I went down there, and they, like you said, there was a lot of people that first day, 20, 25 people. Mm-hmm. And you got that group that takes charge. You get that other group that's kind of like, all right, tell me what to do. And then I was blown away by the talented people that were in that room. Like, these people could be college professors. Like, some of these guys are smart, man, like really, getting down into the weeds with the theory. And I'm going to tell you right now, I sat there at the end of those couple of days that we were down there, I said to myself, you don't belong here. And I took myself off that committee because I would have been wasting. Yeah. Listen, I could have contributed, but me as a lifelong mechanic in service, as a maintenance man, right? So for me, it was my whole career was the electrical end of the business, right? So I'm like, I'll go down there, no problem. And the people that were down there that forgot more than I'll ever know. Yeah. Was amazing to me. Yeah. It really was.
Guys like Earl.
Oh my God, guys!
But like Ron McKay, Rick Meyer.
Yeah, these guys that just went down there, like, holy cow! And I'm like, nah, I'm gonna bail out of this one because I'm just gonna get in people's way here. Yeah. But that's what I think. Our members got to understand. And it's us. It's our journeymen around the country that are writing that test. So like one of the things we'll hear a lot is, hey, watch out! Those are the NEIEP's trick questions. Yeah. I don't think there's anybody that's trying to trick anybody.
We're really not. Right? I mean, it's what we want to do is create scenario-based multiple choice test questions, and then these practical, tests as well. that are realistically things that they're going to find out in the field.
Right.
You know, if you're doing a test on an elevator, you know, and has a certain capacity, then it's information that they're going to be using or working with in the field. We're not trying to pull some obscure piece of information out, right. And that's one of the things that we as performance associates try to make sure of, that the questions aren't just written on things that are easily testable. Right. It's got to be practical and done.
Yeah, and I think that process that I was up there when we saw the 400 results from,
yeah.
it kind of, we were looking for that question that was answered only 10% of the time. Mm-hmm. We were also looking for that question that was answered 99% of the time, because you don't want that question either.
Right.
Right? You want, some questions a little easier. There's plenty of softballs within that test that nobody should be getting wrong, that you do see guys getting that question wrong. And when we go into review, and I did it just the other night, to tell the guys to make sure that they take their time and understand what the question is, because a lot of times they're nervous and they buzz through it and miss that key word. And the easy question that was written for, hey, here's a gimme,
yeah.
And 10% of the country is getting it wrong just because they didn't understand or they didn't take the time to make sure they understood what the question was. But I know for a fact, but I try and tell guys, no trick questions. Like don't read into the question differently. Just read it with common sense and answer what it's asking. There's no trick questions.
Yeah, I mean, that is nothing truer than that. There's nothing on there that's in there to try to trick anybody. Right. Because you only have a limited number of items that you can put on there. I know people say, 160, but 160 is just really not a whole lot given the curriculum. There's no room for trick questions. Right. There's so much relevant information out there that, you don't want to waste space with a trick question.
Oh, yeah. You mentioned a little bit before, and something that we're doing here tonight, the practical exams.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into that a little bit. NEIEP is rolled out. We're into our third set of practical exams. We've been rolling out 500 for a while, the pipe bending and the wiring. Mm-hmm. 100 has a practical. Yep. And now here you are at Local 1, we're beta testing
700, yeah.
Talk a little bit about the 700 practical and how it's going.
And I would say that these practical tests take the multiple choice test, which I think is already best in class because of how it's done, i.e. with the mechanics writing it and us working together for it. But you take the practical test and add those in with the mechanics exam, that it is best in class, it's state of the art. So basically what we're doing is we're moving the bar closer to what's actually done. The 700 practical is, it's a video-based environment, but, it shows them they get on a scene, and it's a hydro, and there's, either the call won't come to the second floor or the third floor, typical problems, and the guys just have to troubleshoot it. They got to get their meter out. They got to test this. They got to test that, and they got to narrow down. And that is what you would do on the job. Right. So we are really, that one right there, I think, is the most realistic practical. Right. That's really out there, because they are actually troubleshooting an elevator, and I have to hand it to NEIEP's leadership for investing in that. And I think they're going to invest in some more of those as well. But that is about as close to the job as you can get.
Yeah, we're very fortunate that we were able to do that.
Yeah.
There's some trades out there that, God bless them all, and they're all phenomenal and they're all great, that don't, just can't do it like that.
Yeah.
And we're very fortunate that we're able to, to do these kind of things. And I agree with you. The 700 practical, when you're putting a guy in a machine room.
Yeah.
And go figure it out. There's nothing more accurate to real life. Like there's some classes here that you take right from the classroom, you go right to the job site. Our rigging, right? That's just phenomenal, yep. Right? Our rigging is so. The guys that take the rigging class, I'll go one step further. The guys that go get trained up at NEIEP by Crosby, right? So these guys that have been in the business and think they know what they're doing, and they come back and they're like, how am I still alive? Yeah. On how I was rigging in the past.
So you're just doing, I'm going to take this, web sling or whatever and tie it off like this. No, there's method to the madness. These certain angles, are stronger than others, and you have capacity, and no one wants, the elevator
Yeah,
falling and
but that knowledge that they take back and then they teach it,
Yeah.
right? And then NEIEP comes in and tests them. To me, is probably as realistic as it gets. Listen, it's a scaled down sling, and it's not, 5,000 pounds. It's 50 pounds or whatever it is. But the theory that you're taking from the classroom.
Yeah, when you're doing a double wrap choke on a piece of material, you have to have all those things correct, and the it can't be crossed at the bottom because it's going to rub, So all the things that it is scaled down, but they're doing the lifts appropriately, so that when they get out there on a big job, then they can rig it up correctly.
Yeah, but I think this 700 is right there too with real live shutdowns. It's not just silly. There's how many? You probably know better than I do. How many program shutdowns are in that?
Oh gosh, I think there's over 200.
Yeah.
But it's so real because hey, if you use the meter incorrectly, it tells you, hey, you used it. You didn't shut the main line disconnect off or whatever. It's exactly, or it's pretty close to what they see.
No, it is. It's good, and it's the practical's great, but also as a continuing ed class for guys that are and we're developing some stuff here too that we're gonna incorporate that virtual troubleshooter. It's a great tool. What's great about it is, you can have a bunch of guys in a classroom. You don't have to go on a job site.
Yeah.
Here we are, right in the classroom, nice air conditioned room that you can, learn these skills that a lot of guys. Listen, you got a lot of people that work in construction and modernization their whole career, and now they want to, transfer to service, and they're a little uptight about it, a little nervous. I've never done that before. This is great. Come down here, and I'll run you through more shutdowns than you could swing a cat at.
Right. And the good thing about that 700 practical is you learn to think. You learn to problem solve. It takes you way beyond just rote memorization. And that's why, and all the tests that NEIEP puts out are designed to take you beyond just basic memorization. But the 700 practical, you got to think. Right. And that's what you got to do in the job as well.
And I would assume the thought process from the higher ups, and I would think you would agree that this is going to help guys pass that test, right? Guys that are struggling, they're missing by a handful of points.
Yeah.
Even if they're struggling in the electrical end, this ultimately is going to help them to get back into that.
Put them in a familiar environment. Yeah, and that's another thing for credit to NEIEP's leadership is they know that as good as the multiple choice test is and as practical as it is, some people just do better with their hands and doing the job, and that's what the practical tests are allowing to do is to, okay, I may not be the best test taker in the world, but now I can do a hands-on part. Semester 100, measuring. Semester 500, bending pipe. Those are not multiple choice tests. It gives everybody kind of a shot to show their skills.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. I think ultimately, right, their plan is to have practical for every semester. Is that the plan?
I believe for every semester except for 400, because it's not 400, for 300, because that's just electricity, right?
Yeah, basic electricity, Ohm's law, and all that.
Yeah, I
stuff.
think everything except for 300 is going to get a practical.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's going to help guys. I think it's going to make them smarter. It's going to help them get through that test. There's plenty of guys here that can't pass that test at a great
Yeah, and for instance, part of the 700 multiple choice test items are reading prints. You're reading prints with the purpose of solving a multiple choice test problem, but now you can just take it into that semester 700 practical test environment. You're looking at a print, and it's alive. It's a live problem, and it's more real. I'm wearing out a phrase, but it's more real.
So other than practical and mechanic exam, you get involved in our, like our final exams too, and
not now. In the beginning, when NEIEP was rewriting 100 and 200, I was more involved getting the learning objectives established with the curriculum, and then I did a lot of item writing training, for the writing committee or for the development committee, and then after a couple of semesters, I think after 200 or 300, I kind of handed that off to the internal staff. So now they've all written so many items the way that
sure.
that NEIEP wants them to write them, that they don't need me around anymore for that at the you're at the semester exam level. And those are not written quite at the level of the mechanics exam level, but I mean, they're a close approximation. But anyway, so I was able to hand all that off, and NEIP does that in-house now.
Yeah. Do you think that move to prometrics, do you think that helped guys pass the test?
I liked the move to prometrics because of the absolute guarantee of fairness.
Right.
And now beyond
Well, the security of the exam.
Yeah. That's a better way to say it. Test security.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, I think as long as they go and it's a quiet environment and whatever, I think it's fine. I mean, I know that there are some challenges with prometrics, but I mean, that I really haven't been involved in that. My biggest thing, and it really doesn't matter how it happens, is just test security. And I know everyone wants test security.
Yeah, that's a big thing. But I think it helped. I think it was a new thing.
Yeah.
When it came, and with new things, everybody's like got their pitchforks out and they want to burn the house down.
Oh, yeah.
But when you really think about this exam, 160 questions, it's a grind.
Yeah.
It's worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stress involved. To be able to go into a nice, quiet place, you're by yourself, you don't have any distractions. Like, I know how we do it here. Mm-hmm. We're in our union hall, which is, big. It's not conducive to taking a test. There's noise. There's a cement plant across the street that, you hear the guy on a loudspeaker all the time. Right. There's people walking in and out. The lighting's not the best. It's fine. And we did it that way for a long time. We had the second week of November every year. But it wasn't, in my opinion, really conducive to letting somebody sit down and let them be at their best and concentrate and just relax and take the test. I think when we saw our pass rate start to go up after 2015, it was in the toilet because it was a new test. I'm sure you see that all the time.
Yeah,
when there's a new test.
Everybody's was at that point.
Everybody's was, right? And then we came out of it and we came to a real nice pass rate. But I think a lot had to do with it. I think a lot had to do, the testing facility had a lot to do with it. Going down to a choice of 3 instead of a choice of 4.
Yeah.
Right? With the multiple choice. Like, what was the thought process with that?
So when you create an item, you create your scenario, what you want to test on, and then you ask your question. And then the way we put it together is when we draft it, all the correct answers are A. Now, it's not that way all it does, but it's obviously easy when you're writing an item. When you get your question written, the A answer, it's easy. There's the right answer. So then now it's like, okay, well, if you're going to write some distractors that are wrong, you want those distractors to be plausible to people who really don't know what's going on. So usually it's pretty easy to write your first distractor. Then it kind of gets more difficult to write your second distractor. The C option is really tough, and by the time you get to the D option, it's a throwaway. Right. So when you do the statistics, if you have 4 options, most of the time nobody's choosing the 4th one, like 2%. So that's a waste of time. So you're better off concentrating on the right answer and two wrong distractors. It becomes a better item. Right. Yeah.
So on the choice of 4, the 4th choice was really like, name 3 presidents, and one of them is Margaret Thatcher. We know
exactly.
That's not president, right?
Right.
So now with the 3, the 3rd one isn't as ridiculous as that.
As the 4th one.
Right.
Yeah, you mean, normal.
So it's really, now it's the right answer, a real good distractor, and maybe a lesser distractor.
Yeah, if you're a good item writer, you can write 2 good distractors, but usually it's like you're going to write, your first one's going to be your best one. Yeah. Now, we do have some on the mechanics exam that are 4 items, or that are 4 options. Right. Those are usually numbers that it's a complete. Well, sometimes if numbers are in the answer, it's easier. It's okay to write 4. Okay. It's okay to write 4, but most of the time, I would say on the mechanics exam, probably 130 of them out of 160 are 3 options. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, some of them.
About that.
Some of them are 4. Yeah.
But I think it all helped.
Yeah, but-
it all helped. And getting the narrative out there that it wasn't all circuit tracing, and get everybody to calm down and just say, hey, man, not only is it not all circuit tracing, it's a little bit of everything. So
Yeah, it's everything.
And
Every semester has it's about an equal number of items per semester.
Yeah.
Give or take a little bit.
do you have any other trades that you do this for?
Yes, there's a manufacturing company there in Memphis. Hyosung. It used to be Mitsubishi industrial plant. Do their aptitude testing, supervisor, manager testing. 30 years ago, I'd say most of our clients were industrial. With the change of industry in America, it's probably 50 to 70% now is probably service industry. But yeah, we have a lot of companies that we do this for, and in those companies, a lot of what I do is managerial testing. But I do frontline as well.
Yeah, so that aptitude test that we use for the recruitment.
Yeah,
That's been around a long time, hasn't it?
yeah, it has. I mean, the mechanical aptitude, reading, and math are basic thinking, reasoning, components. Those are necessary if you're going to have people taking tests at the end of their semester and the mechanics exam. So those, they're just basic thinking, reasoning tests. Right. So
The way we spin that thing when people are like, oh, what's on the test, or what's the purpose of it, and they're elevated questions. Well, it wouldn't make no sense to have elevated questions on an
Because they
aptitude
haven't
test.
been
You're
trained.
not in the business.
Yeah.
But the way I always say it to people is, it's a test to see if you are teachable
Exactly.
in the curriculum that we're going to throw at you. So,
Yeah,
in a mechanical
yeah.
trade, some basic mechanical aptitude,
Yeah.
we're going to be throwing a hell of a lot of numbers at you.
Yep.
So some basic math, and you're going to be reading a lot of things. So
Yeah.
some basic reading comprehension, right? I mean, that's
Yeah, and the reading is at the 8th grade level. Right. It's not some PhD or whatever like that. These are all they're. It's not calculus. It's multiplication, division, subtraction, and dividing, which is what you're doing in the field. So it's career appropriate components: math and mechanical aptitude and reading.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, when you're giving out that test and you're at that recruitment, and the math is the third section,
Yeah.
I do it all the time. We say, all right, we give our little speech and hit go, and the first 3 questions are easy.
Yeah.
They're basic, just whole numbers,
Yeah.
and then you start at question 4, and then you look out there. And then you know who's doomed. You know who's doomed within like 4 minutes, because you got guys that are scratching their head already.
Yeah.
You got Johnny that says, he's the math whiz.
Yep.
And then you got the other guy that's just staring down. And he's like, oh, I'm done here.
Yeah.
And then you walk around and you're looking, and you get 45 minutes for the math section, or 40 minutes. And Johnny's 30 questions in after 10 minutes.
Yeah.
This guy's 5 questions in.
Yep.
It's the math that really...
That really
think that's
separates them.
everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if they do well on that, they're going to be your good troubleshooters. They're going to be good problem solvers. And it goes way beyond just trouble. It's just what's the best way to do things. Yeah. Those people who do well on that aptitude test are going to be your better thinkers. Yeah.
Because we get it a lot from our members up. Like, I could take anybody to come in and I'll teach them how to read a ruler or do this, that, or the other thing. And I'm like, it's not all that, man. They're going to go through 4 years of school, and this ain't a Mickey Mouse school. You're going to have some tough stuff thrown at you, and that test, for the most part, you might have some outliers that do poorly that could have turned into greatness. But I think you let the process weed out. Yeah, maybe you'll lose a few potential people that could have did well, but you also got rid of a lot of people that weren't going to do
That weren't going to do well, because you can see it, as they go through their curriculum. The instructors will come to you and they're like, look, so and so's just not picking it up, or whatever. So that like you said, aptitude test. There's nothing perfect. There going to be some guys who could have done it, but didn't get through the test, and then you got other guys, who they did well on the test and they can't do the curriculum. But by and large, the test is going to be the accurate predictor of if they can do it or not.
Yeah. Do you see like little pockets of the country that do better than others? Like I would assume that there's got to be some sections of the country that, for some reason, like, I don't know if it's the big cities that are more into, I don't know,
or maybe not. Maybe. I haven't looked recently, but seemed Seems
Like
like
you
San,
always-
San Francisco was always a pretty, their people always do well at the mechanics exam, if I remember right. But I haven't looked at it in a while. I try to look at it, I mean, if someone asks me, I'll say, okay, yeah, your pass rate is X, Y, and Z, but I try to look at it as a whole.
Because you would think like some of these cities that, they don't have really high rise. They may think they have a 8-floor high rise building in their city, but that's a big hydro for us. But you would see that they're mostly working on hydraulic elevators where they're not seeing, maybe some of the stuff that we're seeing here. But listen, I've traveled all over the country and helping guys out, and there's smart people all over the place. There's really, they do well.
Yeah, and that's why we try to, when we do the mechanics exam, I mean, we got people from, coast to coast. We try to get the best of the best. We try to put feelers out and say, hey, we're wanting, seasoned mechanics, and we want to get representation from everywhere.
Do you think it's good that we have a comprehensive mechanic exam at the end of our curriculum? Because most trades don't.
I do, because if you look at other industries, most industries or have a licensing exam in order to do your practice. Right. And that applies, for medicine and law. I think plumbers and electricians have a certification exam as well, or it's at least a licensing exam, which would be similar. Right. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the mechanics exam, because it just gives more assurance that these guys can do what you want them to do.
No, I think it's great. I think it, rather than just give a kid stamp his card journeyman at the end of 4 years because he's done with school. Well,
and the other thing is this is standardized. One of the biggest, one of the best assets of the program is the ability to do it all over the United States. But you still need that standardized exam that comes at the end of the process that everyone gets, that you and the committee have said this is the standard that needs to be met. Right. That ensures, the competence.
Right. No, I agree, man. I think it's important. It's kind of like how we always, it's who we are. Like we have a lot of pride in that test.
I think it's one of the things.
It's evolved.
Yeah.
Over the years listen, this is an old building. Not that we've been here forever, but our stuff has traveled with us. Yeah. And going into some of these cabinets and looking at old 10-question mechanic exams from the 40s or the 50s or whenever it was, to what it is today is pretty huge.
But then you go back to the training, the curriculum, your labs. Yeah. I mean, you got a welding lab. I mean, I know welders do the same thing too. But if you look at all the labs that NEIEP has, that these students get exposed to, you don't see that. You don't see the amount of training, the investment in the training, and the development of the guys, and especially from the labs. I mean, you think of how much resources it takes to have all those labs. It does. I mean, you go up to NEIP's headquarters, when the piping and wiring came out, or when the line starter lab came out, you see just 400 boxes of those things. Yeah. Those things are those are resources well spent. Sure. And I haven't seen every other industry, but most industries I would say don't have the extensive labs.
No, we're very fortunate here, and fortunate to have the leadership that we have, at the top, and it trickles down to to NEIEP, to work preservation, all these organizations that we have here, and then that trickles down to the locals.
Yep,
and I think
absolutely.
Everybody's on the same page.
It starts at the top.
Yeah, but listen, we run into each other from time to time. Yeah. We always have good times. We've been on some projects together, and whenever I hear Britt's coming to town, I'm like, well, I got to make sure I see that good old boy.
Yeah, and I'm always like, I got to see Richie Loeb. Is Richie Loeb in today? Yeah, absolutely.
Give you a couple more sound bites for your phone.
Yeah, I mean, that's my main sound bite when it comes to New York.
Well, I'm not going to say what it is.
No, we won't say it right now.
It's a lot of fun times, and I'll end it with all this work that you've done with NEIEP over the years, and I say it all the time. Man, what a bunch of great people, right? I mean, you're working with some dedicated, smart people that have that attitude, just get the job done, right?
Yeah, Dave, I tell my wife, and I'm like, this is my favorite thing to do is work with the elevator guys, because you're all dedicated, and you and the rest of them have been put in these jobs in NEIEP because, you know, leadership recognizes what you do and your dedication to it as well. And there's also, it's competence as well. Yeah. And that's a lot of fun too, versus working with people who really don't like what they're doing or they're really not good at what they're doing. But, you know, it is special.
It is. And it's a big difference.
Yeah.
You know, and I think not just us. I think all the trades, the people love their jobs. They like coming and building stuff and doing these cool things and building, whether it's buildings, elevators, bridges, whatever the case may be. But I think, you know, you have a hard time walking around this union hall when we have 300 people here for a meeting, finding somebody that doesn't like what they do. Yeah. Listen, they might have been on a crummy job from time to time, whatever, but what they're doing on the day-to-day and what it provides them for their families. You know, I went to a job the other day with Danny. We went over to 270 Park Avenue. So 270 Park Avenue was the largest construction job in the country for a time. It was a 50, 60-story building that they took down and rebuilt.
All right, so is it at the corner of Central Park, or is it?
No. It's in Midtown.
Oh, it's in Midtown? Okay.
Yeah, on Park Avenue,
Okay.
right? It's a 50, 60-story building. State of the building is just magnificent. So Danny and I went over there. We had a meeting with somebody to talk about something, and he was a guy that was kind of like in charge of everybody. Yeah. Right? From J.P. Morgan Chase. That's their building. Okay. And we're talking, and I said to him, I said, man, if you could change, if there was something that we could improve on as you know, local one on the job, what would it be? And we're riding down an escalator. Yeah. Ironically. Yeah. I'm like, what would it be if there was something that you're like, man, I wish. And he looked at me and he said, not a thing. So you guys are professional. Yeah. This work's safe. You set the tone. Do the job. Job come in before time. He's like, I wouldn't change a thing. And I'm like, no, really. I mean, you know, you won't be hurt my feelings. I mean, you know, there's criticism and there's construction criticism. You know, you could tell me, oh, their podcast is the greatest. Well, that's not what I want to hear. I want to know
what we could do better.
The stupid things that we're doing. Yeah. And I said that to him. He's like, nah, man, you guys. And it was, you know, I was proud of our guys and proud of to be a local one member to be able on the biggest job in the country where the guy running the job is like, I wouldn't change a thing.
Change a thing that you do. Yeah.
So it's a testament to a lot of things. It's a testament to our education, right, that you're a part of. It's a testament to our leadership. It's a testament to our instructors, to our shop stewards, to, you know, our mechanics teaching. It's to everybody. Yeah. And it was kind of a proud moment for me.
Very gratifying, for sure. You know, and you know, the Waldorf Astoria that recently just got renovated. Right. Elevator mechanics were featured on video in the promo for that. I mean, they were, and I think it was either a still shot or a video, but it showed elevator mechanics, and I don't know if they said local one or not, but it showed them doing, you know, part of the renovation of those hoistways. I didn't see many of the other trades, you know. But again, it's a testament. It's a testament to what's going on in the industry.
It is. It's awesome. It's a great trade, and you're a little part of it. And
man, I appreciate being able to be a part of it.
You are, man, and you do good work. It's that behind the scenes work that a lot of guys don't even realize what's going on. But you know, somebody like yourself, you know, just helps us, you know, develop, you know, our education to where we think it is, and right at the top.
Yeah, I like I said, I appreciate just being able to be part of it. You know, and I enjoy hanging out with all of you. as well.
We always have.
Yeah, we have a good time.
We have a good time. But listen, thanks for coming down.
You bet.
I appreciate what you're doing for our members up there with the practical. Appreciate what you're doing for NEIEP, and
Absolutely.
Hope the relationship continues.
Yeah, I do too. It's been a lot of fun. I feel like we're doing some good stuff.
Man, so thank you.
All right, you bet, Richard.
All right, pal.
All right, good to see you.
Bye-bye.
Who's going for coffee?